The Black Swan Theory. You are an adult, deep into your career. Every day, you wake up early, go to work, and put in your best effort. You stay late, take on extra projects, and sacrifice time with your family, all because you believe in the promise of hard work. Your boss praises you, your colleagues respect you, and you've come to trust that if you just keep pushing, everything will continue to go well. You've built your life around this belief that dedication and perseverance will always lead to security and reward. But one day, everything changes. You're called into a meeting you didn't see coming. Your boss sits across from you, unable to meet your eyes as he delivers the news. The company is downsizing. Despite all your hard work, your position is being cut. Just like that, everything you've worked for is pulled out from under you. The office that felt like a second home suddenly feels cold and foreign. The colleagues who admired you now avoid your gaze. In that moment, your world crumbles. All those years of dedication, the sacrifices, the beliefs that your effort would always secure your future, all of it suddenly seems uncertain. It's like when everyone believed that all swans were white. For as long as anyone could remember, every swan they saw was white, so they never thought to question it. It just seemed like a fact of life. But then, one day, someone spotted something different. A black swan. That single discovery turned everything upside down, forcing people to rethink what they thought they knew about the world. This layoff is your black swan, the unforeseen event that tears apart everything you thought you knew. For years, you believed that life was fair, that if you just did everything right, you'd be safe. But this layoff isn't just a loss of a job, it's a loss of certainty, of the belief that your hard work could protect you. It's a deep, aching betrayal by the world that you thought you understood. The security you worked so hard to build feels like an illusion, and the future you were working towards seems to vanish before your eyes. The real question is, what do you do now? Do you let this moment define you, letting the fear and disappointment consume you? In today's world, the Black Swan Theory isn't just about predicting rare events. It's about realizing that unexpected things are a natural part of life. Real strength doesn't come from trying to avoid these surprises, but from how we deal with them when they happen. It's about how you rebuild after a big shock, how you adjust to the new circumstances, and how you find purpose in the midst of chaos. It teaches us that we may not control what happens to us, but we can choose how we rise from the ashes when everything we knew is suddenly taken away. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. You're at a family dinner, and across the table is your cousin, the one that you haven't seen since the last big gathering. With an air of confidence, he starts passionately talking about a topic he seems to know a lot about. Or so he thinks. Out of curiosity, you quickly check your phone, and with a simple Google search, you discover that everything he's saying is completely off base. Yet he doesn't seem to notice, and neither does anyone else at the table. His confidence is so firm that it makes you wonder, does he really believe he's right? This situation is a classic example of the Dunning-Kruger Effect. It's when people who know very little about something mistakenly think they know a lot because they're unaware of how much they don't know. The irony is that sometimes the most confident voices in the room are the ones who are the least informed. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is named after David Dunning and Justin Kruger, two scientists who first explored this phenomenon in 1999. They conducted a series of studies where participants were asked to rate their skills in areas like grammar, humor, and logic. The results were striking. Those who performed the worst tended to overestimate their abilities, while those who did well often underestimated themselves. Now, you might think, how can someone be so wrong and not realize it? It's easier than you think. When you know just a little about a subject, it's easy to overestimate your knowledge. You're aware that you know something, but not enough to recognize just how much there is to learn. It's like watching a short documentary about quantum physics and then feeling like you're an expert, until you're asked detailed questions and realize how much you don't actually know. We see this every day, whether it's a confident cousin at dinner or a coworker who's shocked they didn't get the promotion they were so sure they deserved. The truth is, when we lack knowledge, it's hard to accurately judge our abilities, leading us to believe that we know more than we actually do. So the next time you're in a discussion and someone seems overly confident, remember the Dunning-Kruger Effect. It might just help you take their certainty with a grain of salt, and perhaps reflect on your own knowledge too. The courage to be disliked. For a long time, I found myself hesitating every time I thought about putting myself out there, whether it was starting a YouTube channel, sharing my opinions at work or on social media, or even just speaking in a group. The same questions just kept running through my mind. What will people think? I worried constantly about being judged. If you've ever been in a similar situation, you know exactly how it feels. It's that fear of being judged that can hold you back from showing your true self and achieving your full potential. If you've ever questioned why we care so much about others' opinions, it can help to look at where this fear really comes from. Humans have always been social creatures. Back in the day, survival depended on sticking together in tight-knit communities. Being part of a group meant safety, while being cast out could mean serious danger or even death. That fear of rejection has stuck with us, even though the world has changed. Today, we don't face the same life or death situations, but the fear of rejection is still very real. Instead of worrying about being kicked out of a tribe, you might be afraid of getting criticized on social media or judged by people you know. The thought of getting negative comments, losing followers, or being publicly criticized can be paralyzing. Social media has only made this fear stronger. It's so easy to see how many people approve or disapprove of what you do. The constant need for validation can be addicting. Before you know it, you might even find yourself saying and doing things just to get more likes and positive comments, even if it means not being true to yourself. But here's what I've come to realize. The real courage isn't in trying to please everyone, but in being okay with the fact that not everyone will like you. Yes, it's natural to care about what others think. It's part of being human. But when you start changing who you are just to fit in, that's when it becomes a problem. Imagine how much happier you'd be if you lived according to your own values and passions, rather than constantly worrying about what others think. If someone doesn't like you for being yourself, maybe they weren't meant to be in your life anyway. I know, this is easier said than done, but it's important to remember that everyone, just like you, has their own insecurities. Most of the time, people are so focused on their own issues that they're not really paying attention to yours. And when they do judge you, it's often because they're projecting their own insecurities onto you. Don't let them hold you back. In the past, only the people closest to you could reject you. But now, because of social media, anyone can have an opinion about you and share it with the world. The problem is, we're letting people we don't even know influence how we feel about ourselves. If you wouldn't let a stranger into your home, why let them into your mind? Sometimes it's not even strangers, it's the people closest to you, like friends and family, who might make you doubt yourself. But remember, you have the power and resources to live your life on your own terms. And if you need to, you can find a new group of people who accept you for who you are. The famous philosopher Lao Tzu said, "Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner." The courage to be disliked is the key to breaking free from that prison. It's about having the confidence to be who you truly are, even if it means some people won't like you. Developing this courage isn't easy. It goes against our natural instincts. But once you start, you'll find that the freedom to be yourself is worth it. You'll be happier, more authentic, and more fulfilled when you stop letting the fear of being disliked control your life. So, if you're feeling held back by the fear of what others might think, remember this. You have the right to live your life the way you want to. Don't let the opinions of others keep you from being the person that you're meant to be. The nostalgia effect. You're sitting in your living room, maybe with a cup of coffee in hand, when a familiar song comes on. Instantly, you're no longer in the present. You're transported back to a time when things seemed simpler, easier. Perhaps to a summer evening from your childhood or a moment in your 20s when you felt invincible. For a few moments, you're wrapped in the warmth of that memory, a smile tugging at your lips as you relive those golden days. This is the nostalgia effect, a powerful force that can make the past seem more appealing than anything you're facing today. It's that gentle tug on your heart that tells you, remember when things were better. And suddenly, you find yourself longing for those times, wishing you could step back into that moment and stay there a little longer. But here's the catch. Nostalgia isn't always as innocent as it seems. While it can bring comfort, it can also create a distorted view of the past, one that's polished to a shine and stripped of its rough edges. Those moments that you're cherishing weren't perfect, but your mind has a way of editing out the struggles, leaving you with an idealized version of what once was. I've felt it too, the yearning for a time when life felt less complicated. I remember one evening, scrolling through old photos on my phone, I came across pictures from a trip that I took years ago, a time when I felt carefree and adventurous. As I looked at the smiling faces and beautiful landscapes, I found myself longing to go back to that exact moment. But then, I remembered the reality, how stressful it was trying to plan the perfect itinerary and the exhaustion from trying to do so much in such little time. The photos captured the best moments, but they didn't tell the whole story. It's easy to get caught up in these selective memories, believing that the past was somehow better, more fulfilling. But the more I've indulged in these thoughts, the more I've realized how easy it is to get stuck, to let nostalgia become a barrier to living fully in the present. Nostalgia, while comforting, can gently blind us to the richness of the present moment. It's a reminder of where we've been, but it shouldn't keep us from appreciating where we are now or from embracing the journey ahead. Life is happening right here, right now, with all of its imperfections and possibilities. The past was wonderful in its own way, but it's the choices that we make today that will shape the memories of tomorrow. So as you navigate today, ask yourself, are you cherishing the memories of yesterday, or are you letting them hold you back from creating new ones today? The power of thinking for yourself. At some point, everyone finds themselves agreeing with others without really thinking about it. Whether it's in a conversation with friends, a discussion at work, or something seen online, the pressure to fit in can make you accept ideas that aren't really your own. In today's world, we're surrounded by information from social media, news, and the people around us. It's easy to just go along with what others think. But it's important to pause and ask yourself, do I really believe this? Is there evidence to support it? Could there be another way to see this? Thinking for yourself means questioning the ideas that come your way and forming your own opinions. It doesn't mean rejecting everything others say, but it does mean being critical and not accepting things at face value. Throughout history, progress has often come from people who dared to think differently, like Copernicus, who challenged the idea that Earth was the center of the universe. Thinking for yourself isn't just about personal growth, it can lead to discoveries that change the world. It can be tough to stand by your own ideas, especially when they go against what others think. You might face criticism, but at least your beliefs will be your own. You'll be living authentically, making decisions based on your own reasoning, not someone else's. Next time you find yourself nodding along in agreement, take a moment to consider whether you truly agree. The ability to think for yourself is powerful. It helps you live with confidence and contribute your unique perspective to the world. The egg theory. Imagine waking up in a completely different reality. You find yourself in a vast, unfamiliar place, not knowing who you are or how you got there. As you begin to explore, a being approaches you and starts to speak. You learn that you've died, but this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. The being reveals a profound truth. You are about to be reborn, not as someone else, but as everyone else. This is the essence of the egg theory, a philosophical concept that suggests that every soul is part of a single interconnected consciousness. In this theory, the universe is an egg, and every human life is an incarnation of the same soul, experiencing existence from countless perspectives. When you die, you're not just reborn as another person in the future. You're reborn as anyone who has ever lived or ever will live, experiencing life from every possible angle. The idea might sound strange, but it challenges the way that we think about life, death, and identity. If you're everyone, then the boundaries between you and others dissolve. The pain you cause someone else is pain you will one day feel yourself. The kindness you offer is kindness you will one day receive. This perspective shifts how we view our actions and relationships, encouraging a deeper sense of empathy and interconnectedness. In this theory, the purpose of life is to grow and learn from every experience until you've lived every life. The universe, the egg, is a place for your soul to develop until it's ready to hatch into something greater. The journey is one of continuous learning, where every joy, sorrow, success, and failure contributes to the evolution of your consciousness. The egg theory invites us to reflect on the idea that we are all one, that every person you meet is another version of yourself. It asks you to consider the impact of your actions on the world and to approach life with compassion, knowing that every experience is a part of a grand interconnected journey. In today's world, we often believe that being different from everyone else is what makes us who we are. But the egg theory suggests something different. It says that the differences between us are just illusions, and that we're all part of the same shared existence. If we start to think this way, we might begin to understand others better and find more meaning in our own lives. But this leads to a challenging question. If we are all one, why would someone choose to harm another, knowing they are only harming themselves? The Allegory of the Cave. In ancient times, the philosopher Plato told a powerful story known as the Allegory of the Cave. Imagine a group of prisoners who have spent their entire lives chained inside a dark cave facing a blank wall. Behind them, a fire burns, and between the fire and the prisoners, there's a walkway where others move objects that cast shadows on the wall in front of them. These shadows are all the prisoners have ever seen, so to them, the shadows are reality. They believe these vague, flickering shapes are the entirety of the world because they've never known anything else. But one day, a prisoner is freed. He turns around and for the first time sees the fire and the objects casting the shadows. Confused and overwhelmed, he stumbles out of the cave and into the blinding light of the outside world. At first, the brightness is too much to bear, and he's disoriented by the vivid colors, the depth, and the realness of everything around him. But as his eyes adjust, he begins to understand that the world outside the cave is far richer and more complex than the shadows he once believed were everything. Today, our cave might be the digital world we're so deeply immersed in. Think about how much of your reality is shaped by what you see on screens, curated feeds, perfectly filtered photos, and the endless stream of content you scroll through every day. It feels comfortable and safe as you watch your likes and comments add up, giving you a quick sense of worth and connection. But in truth, it's limiting, like being chained to your phone, believing these small glimpses are the whole reality. Just like the prisoners in Plato's cave, we often accept the filtered, biased snippets of reality presented to us online as the full picture. Social media and online platforms create echo chambers where algorithms feed us content that aligns with our existing beliefs, reinforcing what we already think and feel. It's as if we're staring at the shadows on the wall, believing them to be the entirety of reality, and never questioning what might lie beyond. The allegory of the cave serves as a reflection of the choice that we face in our modern lives. Are you content to remain with the shadows of the digital world? Or will you seek to step outside and discover a deeper, more authentic reality? Stoicism and Epistemology. You're catching up with an old friend over coffee. You're deep in conversation, sharing stories about your lives and discussing recent events. As your friend talks about a mutual acquaintance, they mention something that surprises you. Perhaps a rumor or a piece of gossip that paints this person in a negative light. You trust your friend, so you take their words at face value, and your perception of the acquaintance changes. You feel a mix of emotions, disappointment, maybe even a bit of anger. But later, you learn that the story wasn't accurate. The acquaintance wasn't involved in anything wrong. It was all a misunderstanding. You realize that your quick acceptance of the information led you to form a false judgment. This scenario touches on key ideas in both Stoicism and epistemology, the philosophy of knowledge. Stoicism teaches us to be mindful of our judgments and the way that we interpret the information we receive, whether it's from a close friend or any other source. The Stoics emphasize that while we can't control what others say or do, we can control how we respond and whether we allow ourselves to be swept away by unverified claims. Epistemology, on the other hand, encourages us to think critically about how we come to know what we believe to be true. It's about examining the sources of our beliefs, questioning the evidence behind them, and being aware of the potential for error in our assumptions. In this conversation with your friend, you quickly accepted their story as truth without questioning it. Epistemology would push you to consider, how reliable is this information? What evidence supports it? Could there be another perspective or explanation? Stoicism and epistemology together urge us to be cautious in forming beliefs, especially when those beliefs have the power to shape our attitudes and actions. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught us that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but the views we take of them. In this context, the rumor about your acquaintance wasn't what caused your distress. It was your acceptance of it as fact without sufficient scrutiny. In modern times, these ancient ideas are incredibly relevant. We often find ourselves in situations where we have to make quick judgments based on limited information, whether in personal relationships, at work, or even in making decisions about our health or finances. Stoicism reminds us to take a step back, to not let initial impressions dictate our reactions, and to seek a clearer, more rational understanding before jumping to conclusions. The theory of everything you don't know. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of awe? Those countless stars shining from millions of miles away remind you of how vast and mysterious the universe is. Yet, what if I told you that some of those stars you see might not even be there anymore? Take SN 1181, for example, a star that exploded over 850 years ago. It was visible to ancient astronomers for months, and even today, you can still see its remnants. This star, known as a zombie star, isn't entirely dead. It's a rare type of supernova that continues to emit light long after the explosion. The fact that you can still see it in the sky, even though it died centuries ago, shows you how much of what you perceive is just a glimpse into the past. The story of SN 1181 reminds us that what we see and believe isn't always the full picture. There's so much more out there, unknowns that stretch beyond our current understandings. These kinds of mysteries make us question what we truly know about the world around us. Your senses tell you one thing, but the reality can be far more complex. This uncertainty extends to the very ground beneath our feet. We think of it as solid and stable, but the Earth is constantly shifting and changing. And then there's gravity, something so familiar, yet we still don't fully understand why it exists. You've probably heard the phrase, "I think, therefore I am," from the 17th century French philosopher René Descartes. It's a simple yet profound statement that serves as the foundation of modern philosophy. For Descartes, this was his way of saying that in a world full of uncertainties, the one thing you can be sure of is your own existence. At first, this might not seem revolutionary, but when you start to really think about it, it challenges everything you take for granted. Philosophers since the time of Socrates have grappled with the question of whether you can truly know anything. The more questions you ask, the more uncertain everything becomes. Descartes was famous for his radical skepticism, doubting everything, no matter how obvious it seemed. He believed that by questioning everything, you could eventually uncover the truth. This skepticism led him to a question that still puzzles you today. How do you know you're not dreaming right now? Or, even more unsettling, how do you know your reality isn't being manipulated? Think of it like The Truman Show. In the film, Truman Burbank lives what he believes to be a normal life, but in reality, his entire world is a carefully constructed set, and everyone he knows is an actor. He's the star of a TV show, but he has no idea. Everything he experiences, every sight, sound, and interaction, is part of an illusion designed to keep him unaware of the truth. So, how much can you really know about the world around you? Realizing what you don't know is not a limitation, but a doorway to greater knowledge. The more you question, the more you learn, and the more you grow in your understanding of this vast and complex universe. The theory of everything. Scientists and philosophers have long sought a single explanation for everything in the universe, a theory of everything. This theory would unite all the forces of nature, from gravity to the tiniest particles, into one simple framework. Over the years, we've made great strides in understanding how the universe works. Newton's laws explain motion. Einstein's theory of relativity explains time and space, and quantum mechanics delves into the behavior of particles. But these theories don't always fit neatly together. The search for a theory of everything is not just about understanding the physical world. It's about answering life's biggest questions. Why do we exist? What is the true nature of reality? Could there be a hidden dimension that we can't even perceive? This quest is both scientific and philosophical. It challenges what we know about time, space, and even consciousness. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much remains unknown. What if the theory of everything is something we'll never fully understand? What if the universe is just too complex for one theory to explain? This doesn't make the search any less important. It shows us how beautiful and mysterious the universe really is. Our desire to learn, even if we never find all the answers, is part of what makes us human. Just as we try to understand the universe, philosophy asks us to look within ourselves, to think before we act. It helps us make better choices by being mindful and thoughtful in what we do. In the end, no matter how much we search for answers, life remains unpredictable, full of twists and turns that we can never fully truly prepare for. Yet, through it all, you navigate with the knowledge and wisdom that you've gained along the way. Because, after all, you are an adult.